Brisbane's Jalen Rongo was a perfectly healthy, active 17-year-old when he began to experience what he thought were only mild health issues.
Shortness of breath, small cough, pain in my chest, nothing too big.
Jalen brushed these symptoms off as nothing more than a chest infection. But after several days without any improvement, his mother Ariana decided it was better to be safe than sorry and took him to the local emergency department.
The doctor that came in and checked on us, she took his pulse, and after she took his pulse and realised how high his heart rate is, she actually came back in with a group of cardiologists, and that's when I knew something was not quite right, but the extent of what was happening, I don't think I even fathomed.
Just keep an eye on your speed.
After doing a few more tests, we were told that he had an enlarged heart, a blood clot, and fluid around his heart.
Jalen was quickly transferred to the Prince Charles Hospital Coronary Care Unit, where he was seen by cardiologist Dr. George Jaworski.
So Jalen's problem was that he had a viral infection a couple of weeks earlier. He had still been playing football, and then the heart stopped pumping well, basically. Okay, so this is an ultrasound of Jalen's heart when he first turned up to hospital. This is the left side of his heart, and it's very large. It's about 3 times the size of a normal heart, and the squeezing function is down to about 10%. So it's a very, very sick heart.
Yeah, my reaction was really nothing, to be honest. I couldn't really believe it at first.
I was feeling sick, terrified. I probably can't even put into words how I felt at that moment, knowing that something serious was wrong.
Just going to listen to your heart there. Straight away we knew that he was in trouble, and so that we needed to pull out all stops to keep him alive and to see could we get things better with medications. But it became very clear very quickly that that was not enough and that he would need a transplant.
With no time to lose, Jalen was placed on a national list of patients in urgent need of a heart transplant. But for any organ transplant to occur, a suitable donor has to be identified under extremely specific medical circumstances.
Yeah, so it's incredibly rare for someone to become an organ donor. Only about 2% of people who die in hospital can be considered for organ donation. A person needs to be in the intensive care unit or in the emergency department, connected to a ventilator and on life support medication, essentially.
Donate Life Victoria's Megan Bruns is responsible for communicating with families of critically unwell patients about the possibility of organ donation at the end of life.
It's quite challenging at times. We're always dealing with families who are often going through the worst, moments of their lives and navigating those reactions to grief, which are always different for every family. If you register on the organ donor registry, then we know what your wishes are at end of life, and then we give that information to families. I think 9 out of 10 times, if they know what their loved one's wishes were, it makes that decision so much more easier.
It is a very complex process to undertake a transplant. There is the donor family who need to be aware of the potential for donation from their loved one, that were their wishes. Then we have to get the right size and the blood group. And so you can't just put anyone's heart into someone else, because otherwise the body would reject the organ. It is a matter of the planets aligning, especially when we only do 80 to 100 heart transplants per year in the whole country, in a country of 26 million people. That's not enough. And we have many people on our waiting lists, and some people will die waiting for an organ.
When I was told that I needed to be put on the list, that's probably when it hit me that it's getting very, very serious, and I was starting to get a bit worried at that time.
I guess the biggest worry was, the time. We knew how sick he was. We knew how quickly we needed a heart. It was just the waiting, really.
Almost 2 weeks after Jalen was placed on the urgent wait list, a potential donor was identified. But even delivering an organ to the recipient is no simple task.
Often there's multiple organs that need to go to all different centres, either locally, interstate, or at times internationally. We often call on police at times to help transport organs to an aeroplane waiting at the airport, and they go lights and sirens, really to ensure that organ gets to the transplanting centre as quick as possible.
Thanks to the tireless efforts of countless people across the country, Jalen received a heart transplant in the nick of time.
When someone is as sick as Jalen was in intensive care, each day makes a difference. And the sooner he got a heart transplant, the better it was for him long term. And the great thing to say is that once he got his heart, he was actually discharged home within 15 days.
We'll go up to 6, make you work a little bit harder.
He looks like a young man should be at his age, functioning well and physically able to do everything he wants to do.
Oh, I'm great today. Way better than what it was, yeah. Feeling like could do anything now.
I think if I was to say anything to the donor family, I think what I would want them to know is that they saved his life with the gift that they gave, and the fact that, you know, he was so young at the time that he got sick and he still had his entire life ahead of him. I really think that I would just want them to know how grateful we are, and, you know, all of those words are just not enough for the gift that they have given us.
One donor can save up to 7 people's lives and transform the lives of many people, and it's pretty phenomenal that, you know, that's the outcome. Families that I do speak to, you know, donor families, they often say that this is just one good thing that can come out of such a tragic, often unexpected circumstance, and it really just gives them, you know, a sense of hope that their loved one, you know, may be living on in someone else, and that the recipient, their families don't have to go through what they've had to go through. We really encourage everyone to register their decision on the Australian Organ Donor Registry, and not just to do that as well. It's really important that you have that conversation and you let your loved ones and your family members know of your decision that you've made. So if that time does come for them to make that decision, then they know what your wishes are.